Hello, I'm Daniel Schemer, and today we'll be talking about is negotiation binding? Well, the beauty in negotiation is that they are not binding, or so we think. But pay attention that sometimes a court could decide that negotiations are legally binding. It is binding if you say, for instance, I love what we agreed on and I won't go back on this. It can seem like you made a contract and agreed that all the terms are good for you and that you agree to hold them. So usually for negotiation to be binding, you do need a few elements to be in place. An offer might be made by one of the sides. If an offer has been made and all the terms are to the likings of the other side and he agrees to the offer, then we have acceptance. Acceptance is made when someone shows he accepts all the terms. But in order for it to be binding in a court of law, we need the main elements, the most important parts of the deal to be decided upon. Not small things like color, for instance, if color is not a main thing, but if color is a very big part of the negotiations, then we need to have a color stated. But if an offer has been made that if someone does this and this, and the other side accepted all the terms as they are stated, we have a binding offer. A contract is not only done after a negotiation, or doesn't have to be in writing. A contract has to be when two sides accept all the terms and the deal seems to the normal man, to the normal observer, as good for both sides. If we want a negotiation not to be binding, we can make an LOL, which is a letter of intent, stating how it would be binding, and if it happened in any other way, then the way we stated that is binding, it is actually not binding. So you could make also a memorandum of understanding. It's called heads of terms. And for all those to be binding, you need to show the certainty of the terms. The beauty in negotiations is that normally, if it is stated that it is only a negotiation for a contract to be made, as long as we're not making a contract in that certain way, it is not binding. But in life, we need to remember there is an outside reality and an inside reality. Courts of law cannot distinguish between the two. A judge cannot see inside a person. A big part of the negotiation is finding the real things you need or want. We don't want to let the other side down. So we need to be clear also about the form and also what is our state of mind at this specific moment and what it will be when we are concluding the terms to reach a binding agreement. And if we are not, we should say so. We should say this is not binding. We are just talking, we are just thinking. Most important thing is where we are. Why are we here? If we say, and then we get this and this, we can't say, oh, but it was just a negotiation. If we talk tomorrow, it will be binding. So if we talk tomorrow and we're talking, it's binding. We need to be very careful if we don't want something to be binding, to make it very crystal clear. We need to take care of the frame outside and around the negotiation. It will help them. The idea is we want to make everything clear. Sometimes I do a negotiation for the sake of negotiation, and sometimes I immediately go to make a contract. Sometimes I speak to someone in order for it to be binding, and sometimes I speak to someone in order for it to be influential, or to get knowledge, or to be clear about something, or to make a preparation for something else, or to make a small part which is binding and a small part which is not binding. and I have to make the other side understand, and that I have to act in good faith for the other side. I have to make all these things very clear. If something does not go well, maybe you should think about signing a confidentiality agreement. Maybe you should start before talking about the deal. Maybe you should sign something that says he cannot discuss outside of this room what we're talking about in these negotiations, so we can speak freely to the other side. People think that in order to have a binding contract, they need to sign something or write something down. Those are things we do not necessarily need or do not necessarily do. Those things could help us clarify something in court. Sometimes you can do a negotiation over the phone. That doesn't mean it's not binding. You could do it with a fax, by email. Of course it's binding. If all the terms are there, you've asked for something, you got it. Now you must act on it. So often one side is eager and fast to agree, he needs the deal, and the other side takes its time. So it's essential to let the other side know he is not there yet, or we are not there yet, or what is necessary for us to agree on before we can move to signing, or to agreeing to all the terms. So if you plan to go into a negotiation, prepare. Get a lawyer, get a course. Don't go at it alone. The price of negotiating in bad faith or in a bad structure without taking into consideration every part around the negotiation could be very harmful and could cost you a lot more than what you think. There is nothing more important than communication. And we are so ignorant of how to communicate. How and why do we trust someone? There is so much to discuss, and things we got nowhere in the start change after we like each other. Sometimes we go into a negotiation fighting and we leave as best friends. Sometimes the opposite happens. So when we know the other party better, we can take care of him in many ways, and he can take care of us. He can give us something more than we even know to ask for, and we can give him something that maybe he didn't know to ask for, but we have in our power to give if it is in our own good interests. So to do and to think about all these things, you must take into consideration how you sound like to the other party. What is he hearing? Did we sign any preliminary papers? Should we make some preliminary papers so we would feel comfortable being truthful and open in the negotiations? I'm Daniel Shemer, lawyer and mediator. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next lesson.